Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajak Acharya Ashotara Sata Shri Shrimad. His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajak Acharya Ashotara Sata Shri Shrimad. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nam Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Prem Se Gaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopi Go Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 4, Text number 33. Almost the end of the chapter. Viduraha api udhavat shrutva krishnasya parama atmanaha kridaya upata dehasya karmani shraghitani cha viduropyudavach shrutva viduropyudavach shrutva krishnasya paramatmanaha krishnasya paramatmanaha kridayo patadehasya Hirdayo pata dehasya karmani shlaghitani cha karmani shlaghitani cha viduropyudavach shrutva krishnasya paramatmanaha Kridhayo patadehasya karmani shlaghitani cha viduropyudavach shrutva krishnasya paramatmanaha kridhayo patadehasya karmani shlaghitani cha. Please chant. Viduropyudavach shrutva Shlaghitani cha Viduropyudavach shrutva Viduropyudavach shrutva
Krishnasya paramatmanah Hridayopatta dehasya Karmani shlaghitani cha
Anyone else from the men want to chant? Mataji's? Ashuta. Viduraha. Vidura. Api. Also. Uddhavat. From the source of Uddhava. Shrutva. Having heard. Krishnasya. Of Lord Krishna. Parama. Atmanaha. Of the Supersoul. Kridhaya. For the sake of pastimes in the mortal world. Upata. Extraordinarily accepted. Dehasya. Of the body. Karmani. Transcendental activities. Shraghitani. Most glorious. Cha. Also. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Vidura also heard from Uddhava about the appearance and disappearance of Lord Krishna, the Supersoul, in the mortal world, which is a subject matter sought after with great perseverance by the great sages. Purport. The subject matter of the appearance and disappearance of the Supersoul, Lord Sri Krishna, is a mystery even for the great sages. The word paramatmanaha is significant in this verse. An ordinary living being is generally called Atma, but Lord Krishna is never an ordinary living being because he is Paramatma, the Supersoul. Yet his appearance as one of the human beings and his disappearance again from the mortal world are subject matters for the research workers who execute research work with great perseverance. Such subject matters are certainly of increasing interest because the researchers have to search out the transcendental abode of the Lord, which he enters after finishing his pastimes in the mortal world. But even the great sages have no information that beyond the material sky is the spiritual sky, where Sri Krishna eternally resides with his associates. Although at the same time he exhibits his pastimes in the mortal world, in all of the universes one after another. This fact is confirmed in Brahma-samhita 5:37, Goloka eva nivasatya kilatma putaha. The Lord, by his inconceivable potency, resides in his eternal abode, Goloka, yet at the same time as the Supersoul, he is present everywhere, both in the spiritual and material skies, by his multi-varieties of manifestation. Therefore, his appearance and disappearance are simultaneously going on, and no one can say definitely which one of them is the beginning and which is the end. His eternal pastimes have no beginning or end, and one has to learn of them from the pure devotee only, and not waste valuable time in so-called research work. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum militam yena tasmai Shri Guruve namaha. Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utaf Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanshakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vikasa Swaminiti Namine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Viduro Pudavach Trutva Krishnasya Paramatmanaha Kridayo Pata Dehasya Karmani Shlaghitani Cha. Vidura also heard from Uddhava about the appearance and disappearance of Lord Krishna, the Supersoul, in the mortal world, which is a great subject matter sought after with great perseverance by the great sages. We are reading Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the ripened fruit of all of the Vedic literatures, and it is as such because it gives us so much detailed information about Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And we can see here, as we've been reading about and discussing, that this knowledge isn't begot, it isn't found out by just some sort of deductive or mechanical process. But as we see here, we have Uddhava, who is described as non-different from Krishna himself. He's so close to Krishna, he's such an intimate associate of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's such a great devotee. And here he's talking to Vidura, who's also a great devotee and a great personality. And naturally, they're talking about this great subject matter of the appearance and disappearance of Lord Krishna. And it's described that this great subject matter is sought about by great personalities. Here in the translation, it says that this subject matter is sought after with great perseverance by the great sages. These great sages, they've dedicated their whole life or a good portion of their life to performing austerity, to performing penance. And they undergo so many different things, so many different austerities, and they know so much, they might have so much knowledge and so much information. So these aren't just ordinary people, but these are very exalted personalities, people with a lot of Shakti, with a lot of potency. These are the people that go after this subject matter with great perseverance. And we can see that not everybody in this world is a great sage. In fact, if you go out on the streets, some people, they might look like a great sage because they have a big beard and they have long hair. But you hear philosophy from these people and they aren't a great sage, even if they might think they are. Most people in this world are karmis, right? We have the karmis, we have the gyanis, we have the yogis, and we have the bhaktas. And most people in this world, they are karmis. So they are simply interested in enjoying the fruits of this material world and thinking that the purpose of this material world is just for my own enjoyment. And with this whole worldview, they go throughout life and they live life as such. This means that they don't really take so deeply the questions of what is the purpose of life, how to attain the higher purpose of life, who is God, what am I even doing here in this world? Right? Me, Janardana-Krishna Prabhu, Abhimanyu Sutta Prabhu, and a couple other devotees, we often go to these college preaching programs. And, you talk to some people that are out on the street, or you invite them to the program, and then they stay, and you sit and you talk with them. And some of these people, they haven't really even thought about what the goal of their life is. Like, I was talking to this one guy yesterday at the program, and I was just like casually talking with him, and then we were just discussing a couple of things here and there. And, he was telling me about his life, what he's doing in school. And I was like, okay, so what is the goal of your life? What is the goal of what you're doing? And he's like, dang, I don't know. I'm just kind of going through life, trying to see what I can do. Maybe I'll do this, maybe I'll do that. So these karmis, they're going through life without any clear direction. They don't have any clear path to follow in which they can really find out these higher questions, this great subject matter, which is sought out by the great personalities. And we also see that some of these people, they've started to inquire a little bit. And naturally, when one is going through the material world, the nature of this material world is one of avidya, or ignorance. Right? You just go throughout the material world and you speak with so many different people and you do so many different things. Just simply engaging in material activity for the purpose of enjoyment doesn't actually satisfy one, and it especially doesn't satisfy one in the matter of knowledge. Because simply by engaging in work as a karmi, you don't really get anywhere. You just kind of go through life aimlessly. So further than the karmis, you have these jnanis. Jnanis are people who search after knowledge, who are searching after information. They realize that, okay, what I've been told to do in life, meaning gratifying my senses, trying to enjoy this material world, thinking that everything here is for my own personal sense gratification, this clearly is not working. I've been trying it my whole life and I haven't been successful. So let me try and find some knowledge by which I can further understand what's going on. And these jnanis, they try to inquire knowledge and information, and generally they try and do so by their own deductive process. They think that, I've been able to do so many things so far by myself, but I'll just get knowledge from sources here and there, or I'll go through experiences in my life, and then I'll be able to get knowledge. I'll be able to get information. And those jnanis who are even a little more intelligent, they inquire from people who they think know. Right? There's different big names in society today, different politicians, different financial advisors, different life coaches, different people who are inquiring more about this material world. They go to and they look to these people for answers. And unfortunately, people are finding that no matter which one of these individuals that they go to, they might give them some knowledge, they might give them some information about the material sphere. They might be able to satisfy them for some time, for a little bit, by giving them a little information which they didn't previously have. And they might get some level of sense gratification which they hadn't experienced before in this life. But then after they go through that experience and they get that information, they realize they're stuck back at the same place again. So then we have these yogis who get information and they undergo different levels of tapasya. They realize that the goal of this life isn't for their own personal sense gratification, and they start to strive for higher things in life. It's described here that these great sages and these mystic yogis, they often understand up to the Paramatma platform, which is the expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead that resides within the heart of every single living being. Right? Krishna kind of describes this nature a little bit. If you could pull up Bhagavad Gita 15:15. Sarvasya chaham hridi sanvishishto matasmritir jnanam apohanam cha vedeshta sharver aham eva vedyo vedanta krit vedavit eva chaham. You can go to the translation here. Krishna says, I'm seated in everyone's heart, and for me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. So Krishna, he's describing how he's situated within everybody's heart. And being within everybody's heart, he is the observer of everything that the living entity is doing, life after life. And he is able to keep a track of all the different activities that the living entity goes through life after life. And he's able to understand the mind of the living entity, understand the different desires and needs and wants that the living entity has. And he allows the living entity to engage or not engage in different things according to his qualification. And especially here, we can see in terms of remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness, these things are given to us by Krishna. Right? We can see it isn't just if we study something and we memorize it that we know it all the time. As I often experience a lot, I might practice and learn so many different verses, but as soon as I sit up on the Vyasasana, I pretty much forget all of them. Right? So, and sometimes you'll just be walking around and you'll remember some verse that you were like struggling so hard to get, and it'll just automatically come to you. So we've had some practical experience of this, that it isn't just up to our own will and our own ability that we have this knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. But it's Krishna in the heart that gives us this information. So these mystic yogis and these great sages, with their great perseverance and with their great endeavor, they try and understand so many different things about the nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? We understand from Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam that the Lord, he appears in three different expansions or manifestations. We have this Brahman realization, this Paramatma realization, and then finally the Bhagavan realization, which is the core or the root of these other expansions. When one is at the level of Brahman realization by level of Gyan, knowledge, because they see everything in this material world, they realize, okay, this isn't for my enjoyment. They realize there's some higher controlling authority here in this world, so they come to the level of this Brahman realization. And finally, these yogis, when they undergo some penance and they get this connection with the Paramatma within the heart. But this realization isn't complete, because as Prabhupada describes actually later in this canto, in the 6th chapter, that these mystic yogis, they think that themselves and Paramatma are the same. As Srila Prabhupada describes here in this purport, that even the great sages have no information that beyond the material sky is the spiritual sky, where Sri Krishna eternally resides with his associates, although at the same time he exhibits his pastimes in the mortal world in all the universes one after another. So even though they come to this level of Paramatma realization, and they're able to see the Lord situated within their heart, and understand that simultaneously the Lord must be situated within the heart of every single living being, they still don't get knowledge and information about the highest level of this Bhagavan realization, of the nature of Krishna and his very amazing, relishable pastimes that he engages in with his devotees. And it's this high subject matter that is seemingly very easily attained here by Vidura via Uddhava. Right? They're talking and they're discussing about this great subject matter and this great information about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Prabhupada describes here that it's very significant that this word, Paramatmanaha, is used in this verse. Because these mystic yogis, they undergo so much austerity and so much endeavor to find out who is the supreme and how can I best serve and surrender. And they pretty much dedicate their whole life to so much austerity and so much understanding, and still they don't come to this highest level of realization. But we can see the devotees, the bhaktas, they're actually it's seemingly very easy for them to understand this information. Krishna says to Arjuna in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Sa evaya maya tedya yogav proktav puratanaha bhaktosi me sakha cheti rahasyam hyetar uttamam. That Krishna is revealing this transcendental knowledge about himself, about this process of yoga by which one can link with him, because Arjuna is not only his great devotee, his bhakta, but his sakha, his very dear friend. So, for one who is simply surrendered to Krishna and Krishna's devotees, this information is actually very easily accessible for them. One doesn't have to undergo this great austerity and penance that these sages have to go to. And Prabhupada describes here that this is actually a very important realization to come to. Because Krishna's pastimes have no beginning or no end. There's so much that one can know. There's so much one can understand about the name, form, qualities, and pastimes about Krishna. And it's important that one learn them from the pure devotee, because, as Srila Prabhupada says here, that one must not waste valuable time in so-called research work. Because if one just simply tries to understand Krishna by this deductive process and by their own material intelligence, one would just simply waste so much time. And one won't know anything about the nature of Krishna's name, form, qualities, and pastimes. And this simultaneous nature of being very easy to understand and very difficult to understand was elaborated and spoken on a little bit yesterday by Janardana-Krishna Prabhu. And he brought up this verse from the Brahma Samhita. If you could pull this up, it's 533 of Brahma Samhita. It's Advaitam Achutam Anadim Anantarupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vedeshu Durlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhakto Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. If you could go to the translation here. That I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is inaccessible to the Vedas, but obtainable by pure unalloyed devotion of the soul, who is without a second, who is not subject to delay, is without a beginning, whose form is endless, who is the beginning and the eternal Purusha, yet he is a person possessing the beauty of blossoming youth. So here we have these two words simultaneously, which is Durlabha and Adurlabha, which means one being very easy to understand and also being very difficult to understand. So one might go through this information, one might have information about the Vedas and information about the Shastra, and as Janardana-Krishna Prabhu was speaking about yesterday, this wealth of knowledge known as the Vedas, it's so vast and it's so expansive, and actually to know all this information, it's impossible for us conditioned souls to understand. And even if one studies so much Veda and studies so much Vedanta, one even still might not come to this understanding of Bhagavan, of Krishna being the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because, as we were discussing about from Bhagavad Gita 15:15, that Krishna says that from all of the Vedas, I am to be known, and that he is the compiler of the Vedas. But actually, Krishna, he doesn't make himself so readily available just by understanding and reading the Vedas. Which is why it's described here that he isn't simply attainable by understanding of the Vedas, but he's attainable by the understanding of devotion. And this is expertly described by Krishna himself in Bhagavad Gita in 4:34, this verse, Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashyena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshibhihi darshinaha. Where that simply by this service to the Lord's pure devotee, one can actually get this high level of knowledge and this high level of understanding. One doesn't simply just have to study the Vedas and study the Shastra, and then automatically this information will be revealed. But we can see by this tadvidi pranipatena, this surrendering unto a exalted personality and inquiring submissively from them, then this knowledge is actually revealed. And we can see that, there's this not contradiction, but this contrast being exhibited here by the devotees and the great sages. And this is shown in the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where we have Durvasa Muni and Maharaj Ambarish. Durvasa Muni, he was one of the most powerful rishis, powerful mystic yogis within the realm of this whole material world. Right? In this pastime, we can see he's able to travel all over the material creation. He's able to summon a great demon simply by pulling out a piece of his hair and throwing it to the ground. And he's able to exhibit so much great mystic power. And he's undergone so much learning. He knows so many mantras. He knows so many different things. But compared to that of Maharaj Ambarish, who was engaging every second, every moment of his life, every aspect of his body, mind, and words in serving Krishna, in cleansing the temple, and serving Krishna's devotees, that Durvasa Muni's knowledge and his wealth of understanding was very insignificant. Because Maharaj Ambarish, he is a bhakta, he is a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And because of this, not only is all knowledge and all information revealed to him, but he's also a great friend of Krishna, and he's protected in every which way by Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And simply by being Krishna's devotee and engaging in practical devotional service, everything is revealed to him by Krishna. And by this understanding of submissive service to Krishna and Krishna's devotees, one can get this super high level of understanding, this great subject matter about the appearance and disappearance of Krishna. And specifically what's described here, Srila Prabhupada says that the spiritual sky where Sri Krishna eternally resides with his associates. I was with Amayatma Prabhu. We went to this DMV or DDS. It was about an hour from here, so it's kind of out in the country. And we met this guy. He was a Baptist Christian. And, we were just waiting outside of this DDS office for his driver's license appointment. And, we were just sitting. We were dressed like this in saffron dress as brahmacharis. And, this big old country Christian guy with a big cross around his neck, he comes up to it and was like, "What y'all doing here, man?" Like he was like inquiring about like where we were coming from. And like he was like, "Y'all aren't illegal, right?" And like, because that's like a big thing with these country people, especially now in the time of election, that the borders, they have to be very strict. And we were Amayatma Prabhu, because he's from Russia, and this guy, he could tell he has some sort of accent, so he was asking him about like his like immigration status. And Amayatma Prabhu was explaining to him about his like visa situation. But then we started talking about God, because he's wearing this big cross around his neck. And he was like asking us about what it's like to be a monk, and Amayatma Prabhu was talking with him and discussing about him. And finally the matter came up because, we were talking about how it's important to give people this, understanding even from a very young age, so they can kind of grow up in learning about God and learning how to serve God. And Amayatma Prabhu was asking him, he was like, "So you want to go back to Godhead, right?" And he was like, "Yep, I want to go to heaven." And Amayatma Prabhu was like, "Oh, very nice, very nice. So what is this heaven like?" And then this Christian kind of like stopped for a second, and he was looking around. He's like, "Well, my family's going to be there, and my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, will be there." And then Amayatma Prabhu was like, "Oh, very nice, very nice. So what will you do there?" And he just stayed silent for about like 30 seconds, like a whole minute, and was just like thinking about it. He was like, well, I'm going to be with my Lord and Savior. And Amayama Prabhu was like, no, but like, what like activity will you do? What activity will you engage in? Like, will you like work a job like you do here? Will you just have like a feast and like a potluck every day? Like, what will it be like? What will your relationship with these family members be like? And he just like couldn't say anything. He was just so bewildered. And after the fact, I was talking with Amayama Prabhu about this whole interaction, and we were like, this is probably the first time ever in his whole life that he's ever thought about this. That, okay, he's been brought up a Christian, and he knows that Jesus Christ is his Lord and Savior, the only way, the truth, and the light. And he knows that he wants to go to heaven, but he has no idea what the heck he's going to do there. He has no idea of any activity about what heaven looks like, about what he's going to do there, about what his relationships with his family members are going to be like. He has absolutely no idea about this high subject matter about the pastimes of the Lord in his spiritual abode. He has no idea about the information of what's actually there in the spiritual sky. So even though, and after we like had this whole big conversation about, loving God and going to heaven, he got in his car and he started smoking a cigarette. And these people, they're really awesome sometimes. But we can see that unless one gets this information from Krishna's pure devotees and gets this information from Srimad Bhagavatam, gets this information from sources like Uddhava, one actually won't get this highest level of understanding. One won't actually know about the appearance and the disappearance of Krishna. One won't know anything, actually, about the Lord's eternal spiritual pastimes, which, as are described, they're always going on. They're eternal. It isn't just, we might read about some instances of Krishna's pastimes, especially especially in the 10th canto, we are hearing about Krishna's highest level of Krishna's pastimes, of that is Krishna in Vrindavan. And we have so much information even available to us just in this Srimad Bhagavatam. But then we hear, information about, like it's described in one purport that, one time, what's the charioteer that took Krishna to Mathura? Akrura, yeah. One time, Akrura, he brought Krishna to Mathura. One time, Krishna rode on the back of the Kaliya serpent. And the deep description of this pastime isn't directly available to us in Srimad Bhagavatam. But we see, as Srila Prabhupada describes here, that his appearance and disappearance are simultaneously going on, and no one can say definitely which one of them is the beginning and which is the end. His eternal pastimes have no beginning or end. So these pastimes of Krishna, they're eternally happening everywhere, in every single universe. They're eternally happening in the spiritual world. There is unlimited variety to Krishna's pastimes and unlimited variety to Krishna's interaction with his devotees. So there is so much knowledge and there is so much information available to the devotee, to the surrendered soul, who just simply has to dedicate himself to the great personality and inquire from him, submissively understand from him. And then so much information it's available. So much knowledge is there for those who simply surrender to Krishna's devotees and submissively inquire from them. And this it of course isn't that we don't have to study or don't have to read this Srimad Bhagavatam. That's also there. But this knowledge, it's really gained by this submissive service, by this devotion, right? Like I was citing this example of Maharaj Ambarish. Every single second of his day, he was engaging in devotional service. And we can see Uddhava here too. Whoever he sees, whoever he meets, he's talking to them about Krishna. He really wants to spread this knowledge and this information, right? Chandan Acharya Prabhu, he was saying that Uddhava, he's going on traveling Sankirtan. He's going to Badarik Ashram, and on his way, he's trying to spread this highest level of the appearance and disappearance of Lord Krishna to these personalities, to these devotees who he meets along his way. And we should also try and spread this information and spread this knowledge to anybody and everybody who we meet along our way. Just like I was describing this case of me and Amayatma Prabhu, we were at this DDS office, and the Mataji who was figuring out all of his driver's license information, Amayatma Prabhu, he brought a Bhakti stack with him, and he showed her the books, and he was like, this is the highest information about God by which one can learn how to love God. And she was very, very interested. She took the book, she gave a nice donation. And this is just some random country department of driver services out in the middle of some random country or county in the middle of Georgia. But we've even being there for such a short amount of time, people were seeing us dressed like this, and they were asking us what are you guys doing? What do you guys practice? Are you guys monks? And we were actually able to talk to so many different people and able to spread this knowledge and this information just by talking to anybody and everybody that we would meet. We would discuss with them and talk to them about this subject matter that's being described here, talking to them about this subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam. And like this, we're able to follow in this disciplic succession of Uddhava, and we're able to spread this knowledge and information to everybody because it's how they can actually be happy, right? Like I was discussing before, the karmis, the jnanis, and the yogis, they undergo so much activity, they undergo great perseverance. Like we were talking about previously, going to these Comic-Cons, and I was specifically talking about Dragon Con. Amayatma Prabhu, he brought up this point that these karmis, these people, they undergo so much material tapasya and austerity. Actually, it's very hot outside. They dress in these crazy outfits. They're out there all day. It costs so much money to go to these things. They spend so much money. Some people, they fly from 20 hours. They drive so far. People are undergoing great perseverance. They're undergoing they're voluntarily undergoing so much austerity, but they aren't getting anything out of it. They actually aren't getting to this highest level of realization by which one can actually be happy. And with this understanding, with the same understanding that Uddhava has, because why else would he be giving this information to everybody? He's experiencing this great happiness even in separation from Krishna. He's experiencing this great happiness in being able to relish the great, wonderful pastimes of Krishna. So naturally, he wants to share it with everyone else, right? Because the nature of Krishna's pastimes, they're eternal and they're unlimited. So the great happiness that's associated with it is also very great and very unlimited. And the devotees of Krishna, they want everyone to be at this platform. They want everybody to be able to relish this topmost nectar of Krishna's wonderful pastimes. So people they're actually ready to undergo so much austerity. It just has to be dovetailed for the right propensity. They have to know what the actual goal of life is. And that's why we're going out on the streets. That's why anybody and everyone we meet, we're discussing and we're speaking to them about Krishna. We're trying to give them this great knowledge and information. Because we see it's the cure for their jaundice of avidya. Right? I was discussing that this material world, the nature of it is avidya. I was listening to a class by His Holiness Bhakti Vikas Maharaj, and he was saying this avidya, it's described as like not knowledge. So it's everything that's like that doesn't actually bring one to the platform of knowledge. It might be so many things that might seem tangible, but actually it's not knowledge. It's not real knowledge and real information by which one can actually cure this disease of avidya, of ignorance, right? If one goes to a doctor and the doctor promises them some sort of prescription to cure their disease, and it doesn't actually cure them, you will say this person's not a real doctor. But if they give you the medicine by which you can cure your disease, then you'll have faith in this person. You'll have faith that the medicine that they're giving you actually works. So this is the medicine that we have to give them, and we've been able to practically experience for ourselves that it works. And we're able to develop great faith in this information, great faith in the words of our own spiritual master, because this medicine that we're taking for our material disease, it works. We're able to take up to the process, we're able to have this attitude of this tadvidi pranipatena pariprashyena sevaya, and we're able to gain entrance and gain information into these wonderful name, form, qualities, pastimes of Krishna, right? We didn't have any knowledge or any information about this before. But because we're approaching Krishna with this attitude of devotion, he's revealing so many of these wonderful things to us. So we should hear, we should chant, and we should engage in the process ourselves, and we should tell anybody and everyone we meet about it. So I didn't really have so much prepared. I know it's a little early, but I'll end my class here if anyone has any questions, comments, or corrections. Janardana-Krishna Prabhu.
I was thinking that we're just saying, not that you're saying, that's just our general reference to the way society is as karmis, but actually they're vikarmis. So
Yeah.
generally, also just the idea of karma is that generally you do it in accordance with dharma.
Right.
So then that's why the word vikarma is also there, because then that which is against dharma is vikarma. It's an ugra karma society. So basically every step and everything that you do in your life in the modern world is basically, it's like vikarma. Like you go, you're like eating steak, you're like, doing so many, practically throughout your day, you're basically every single activity is leading to that sort of thing. So it's like a vikarmi society. It's kind of vikarmis, just sinful activity. Every activity, basically every other activity that they do is sinful. And so that's one thing that.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu. Abhimanyu Sudha, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
I may have a misconception about one point. I wanted to just clarify. You were bringing up the point about these yogis, and when they take darshan of the Paramatma, they often they see themselves on the same level as Paramatma. Would that mean that because their conclusions are generally the same as the Mayavadis? Because I thought that the main reason why they don't go beyond Paramatma realization is they take darshan of the Lord, but because of lack of knowledge, they don't understand they're supposed to have like a relationship with Him, but not necessarily that they see like them on the same level. Are they like completely like?
Yeah, I mean, I actually read that yesterday. I was reading through one of Srila Prabhupada's purports, and he specifically says this. I think it's like 368 or something in the purport. Prabhupada says here that these yogis, they see themselves on the same level as Paramatma. So that's where I was getting that from.
Can a yogi be like a yogi without that conclusion also? Like, I guess favorable.
Yeah, I mean, anybody with any conception, once that gets purified, they can come to the level of a bhakta, of being a devotee. But like they have to come to the higher level of realization of this Bhagavan, realization, and they have to inquire from a devotee of one who knows of this nature.
Oh, thank you.
Sorry.
I had one comment. I was just reading in Chaitanya Charitamrita yesterday on the trip of the college program, which is really nice, the glories of Nityananda Balaram, and he completely Prabhupada just debunks like Mayavad. And you make this point about simultaneous, and then the purport is saying how he can be, just aloof from everything, but simultaneously expanding himself as Paramatma. And like in the Vedanta Sutta, Shankaracharya, he makes these commentaries on these aphorisms, and on one point he says that Krishna is one without a second. So if that's the case, then it's impossible that he can expand himself like into these quadruple expansions. It's impossible, But then in another aphorism, he also says that Bhagavan can expand himself. So Prabhupada is making a point that they're simply word jugglers. They themselves are bewildered, so they can contradict themselves just to try to counteract, Vaishnavism. Because they're bewildered, they don't understand like Krishna's inconceivable potencies. And you make the point about simultaneously, how they can't understand how he's one and completely different. This whole understanding is really revolutionary. It completely explains everything.
Yeah, I mean that's why it's the perfect understanding, right? There's that example of that one verse. I think it's in like the 7th chapter or the 9th chapter, where like if you take the Mayavadi understanding of that, the whole rest of the Bhagavad Gita doesn't make any sense. So there's so many contradictions in their philosophies. There's so many ways in which it doesn't make any sense. And this is the only proper way by which you can actually get that high level of understanding, where there isn't these contradictions, where it isn't just simply word jugglery, but it's the actual understanding. So it's very important that we don't get influenced by those other conceptions and ideas.
It's almost like hard to understand. Like, I guess like they say, if you don't understand it, then you're doing pretty good. Because sometimes I'm thinking like, how does this even make any sense? It's so Mayavad it's so retarded.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Anything else? Suresh Prabhu? Oh, Rishi Kumar Prabhu.
I was just hearing in a lecture from Srila Prabhupada I was hearing yesterday. It was from 1976, and on this point, it was really interesting the way it was worded in the purport on the appearance and disappearance of the Lord, and how there actually, would it be possible to see it? There's a really nice sentence at the end of the purport about the appearance and the disappearance of the Lord.
Is it therefore his appearance and disappearance are simultaneously going on?
Yeah, they're simultaneously going on, and it's towards the end. Sorry to take so much time. Therefore, his appearance and disappearance are simultaneously going on, and no one can say definitely which of them is the beginning and which is the end. And a way that Srila Prabhupada said it in this lecture that I was listening to really made it like a click. Like, I don't know, I guess I never understood it before that, but it was on the disappearance day of Rupa Goswami, and Srila Prabhupada was speaking about this, and then he said, so today is the appearance day of Rupa Goswami, and then one of the devotees goes, disappearance, and Srila Prabhupada says, appearance, or something like this. He says, disappearance and appearance are the same thing, and the devotees started laughing, and he was saying he's disappearing from one point of vision and just appearing somewhere else to continue his activities.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's for Suresh Prabhu?
Abhimanyu was there. When Vishnu gave a class and he kind of spoke about these different aspects, he particularly emphasized that the Paramatma, or the yogis, they come into touch with Paramatma, and they more or less, they think they've achieved the end goal, because they've, realized that within the heart. So to some great extent, their material miseries are nullified. So, but they don't understand that actual higher than that is to have a relationship with that.
Yeah.
Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, I don't think they necessarily, as far as I know, they don't think themselves to be on the level with that, but they don't take that understanding further that they should have a relationship. and so they're just content with being peaceful in that state of consciousness or something like that.
Yeah, I mean that's also there as well.
Yeah.
Anything else here from the men? Mataji's, any questions? Nope. Vamsi Prabhu, you have something?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, you said about this Amayatma Prabhu asking this Christian guy a very beautiful question,
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to do? So that puts this light, like maybe in preaching, it's not that every time that person is going to take a book or something, but then we can, prepare him for the next time, means that question may raise some things in his mind. So we should leave with that impression to that person, like with questions or anything that can take him further. So means like in preaching we can ask questions or we can just enlighten him something from what we hear or listen from the Bhagavatam or read, so that he thinks about that and maybe next time he surrenders to the devotees, God knows. Like it happens sometimes, we preach a person and later and then he again meets a devotee, and sometimes then the third time he meets a devotee and he is ready to take the book. If you see, so there some people are like immediately they take a book. We say that is because they have been preached by devotees somewhere or other. Because maybe if they have a bit of sincerity, of course. So that was just a point I wanted to tell. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing, this point that we were talking about, that this is like a question that this guy probably never asked before ever once in his whole life. Because when we asked him it, he was just like, he was shocked. He was just like so bewildered, and he didn't have anything to say. So I mean, I'm sure he'll think about it. He'll read his Bible and try and find his answers there. But I mean, he's already gone through it, and he's read it so many times, and he hasn't found the answer there. So yeah, if he's intelligent and he's any bit sincere, he'll understand that these people have knowledge that I don't have access to. So hopefully.
The Bible says that like in Vaikuntha, it says that everyone wears a crown, and it also says that God's worship with cymbals and drums as well.
As far which version of the 1,000 versions of the Bible says that? No, I'm just kidding. All right. Does anyone have anything else? Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki.